Welcome to the Hazard Class Podcast. This is the podcast where I ask my stupid questions to some of the smartest people in and around the world of emergency services. This week's a little bit different. This one, I'm going to be selfish. I found myself a monster truck driver, and I'm here to ask him all the nerdy questions that I've always wanted to know. And so this guy is the driver of the Quad Chaos monster truck, currently racing on the Monster X Tour. Over the years, he's driven numerous trucks across different monster truck events, including spending time driving in the Monster Jam Stadium Tour. But most recently, him and his wife have started a monster truck driving school based out of their racetrack in North Carolina called Horsepower Park. It's my pleasure to welcome to the show, Paul Strong. Paul, man, thank you. I appreciate it, man. This is a great opportunity. I'm super excited.
Yeah, me too. This will be fun.
Cool. So you've been monster truck driving for what? Got to be close to 20 years now, right?
20 years. Yeah, I started in December of 2005. Okay.
So how does one get into monster truck driving? I understand that you weren't necessarily thinking you were going to be a monster truck driver. My understanding, tell me if I'm wrong about this story, but my understanding is that you were watching television. You saw an event for a Metrodome event here in Minnesota, and you thought, that's pretty cool. Maybe I should go to that. And from there, you kind of fell in love with the sport, and the rest is history. Is that right?
Yeah, that is how it happened. I have twin daughters that were born in 1996. They were born premature, and we were in the hospital in Minneapolis, Abbott Northwestern, on permanent bed rest for about 3 months. And once they were born in September, we got transferred over to Children's, and we were there it ended up being about 3 years that we stayed at Children's. And I spent every night in there with my one daughter that was actually in there the whole time. Mm-hmm. And one of those nights I was just sitting there with her and flipping through channels in her room, and they had an event going on at Monster Jam or at the Metrodome there that night. And I needed a break from reality for a little bit. I knew she was in good hands with the rest of my family there and the doctors and nurses. So I just kind of bugged out, and I went and got probably the worst seat in the house up in the very top.
Yeah.
But it was enough. Like I fell in love immediately.
Man,
the next few years, I just kind of worked toward being able to get out of the hospital, get out of my regular job, and just focus on getting involved with monster trucks. I started chasing some teams around and just helping out for free, stuff like that.
Yeah, it's such a crazy thing because, like, I've been going. I was talking to you before we started recording. I've been going to events with my dad since I don't know, 5 years old. I'm literally quite sure that I was at the event that you were at the Metrodome, because I haven't missed a Minnesota event in 30 years, right?
You've seen me multiple times
for sure, and it's never has it crossed my mind that I would be like, well, I'll go do that. So like the gall that you would have to be like, oh, I don't just like this, I'm going to go do it. And then actually
it was my first thought.
Figure out a path to actually make that happen. So talk to me about that, the logistical journey to go from this is really cool to how do I actually get in the driver's seat?
It was pretty tough. I had a good job at the time, working in software for like an image editing company. And we were kind of a hotshot little company. I was making good money. I had a very, very good career ahead of me, but I wasn't happy sitting in my cubicle all day, looking out the window. I had the only muddy truck out in the parking lot. I had a gravedigger shrine built around my monitor. And one day, it was probably the most unprofessional thing I ever did, and I think about it all the time. I just walked in my boss's office and quit. And I was 23 years old, something like that, and didn't give him any notice. I didn't give him 2 weeks because I knew that if I don't just do this now, it may pass me by. I had a job lined up with my brother where I could work from home. He had a web hosting company, and I was going to go do tech support for him. so I could work from wherever, and I could be wherever. I could go work for other teams. I could travel. I could do whatever as long as I was available for certain hours throughout the day. And I did that for a while, for a year or two. And with the other teams, it just didn't really work out. So my brother and we found a truck, and he actually got the first truck for us. And we just worked and worked and worked for the first, I guess, it was about 4 years, really not making any money or anything, just trying to get the truck to make money so we could,
of course,
shovel some of it back the other way. And we found another truck. So Kaila started driving. She drove my truck a couple times, starting around 2009. And we ended up buying another truck for her that we rebodied with Heartbreaker. It was called Arachnophobia when we got it.
Mm-hmm.
And we started driving together after that.
So how much experience did you have, as a gearhead prior to this? Were you a big car guy prior to that?
I mess with Jeeps and off-road vehicles a little bit. I grew up on a farm, so I knew how to fix stuff. I knew how to run equipment. I did not know how to drive a semi. And, Kaila and I, we were just kids. I was, I think, 27 when we got our first truck. She was 21 or 22. And we had to fly down here to Georgia where our truck was. And we got the truck, the trailer, and the semi all from the same guy. And without ever having even driven a semi before, we had to figure out how to get it back to St. Paul, Minnesota, like 1,300 miles away in 2 days, because we had a display at our first sponsor, Off-Road Only. They had a shop in St. Paul, another little off-road shop.
Yeah.
That I used to hang out at.
So, you talk about Kaila, your wife, right? The first woman to ever land a backflip in a monster truck, right? What's her origin story? I don't want to maybe make you put words in her mouth, but like the fact that you two would both come together, both be monster truck drivers, is also an insane, thing.
Yeah, I mean, she's sitting right here. If you want to talk to her,
have her come in. Let's talk. Bring it in. Bring in the family. Let's do it.
It don't matter.
The more, the merrier.
I mean, she did kind of get roped into it a little bit.
Against her will, hopefully not. Hopefully she's for it, right?
No.
So tell me.
Not against my will.
Perfect. So welcome first off. Thanks for talking. But it's not just one of you, but two of you driving monster trucks professionally. How did you get into it?
I was just out on the road with Paul, learning how to do the basics, like change oil and try to keep the truck clean and like help him fix things. And a lot of the times at the shows back then, there was no girls, but just as many little girls there as little boys. So I really saw that need. And most of the monster truck teams run with 2 trucks in a trailer because 2 monster trucks fit. So then, in theory, you can make more money, even though it doesn't actually work out that way. That was a lot of my motive behind it, is I thought that we would do better financially if we both were driving. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I had no motorsports experience. I just rode 4-wheelers and snowmobiles as a kid, and nothing professionally, just, messing around for fun. But I think it's once you're at the shows, and I was watching everyone drive for, I don't know, maybe a year before I tried it. It just is not as intimidating when you're with it week in and week out. And I drove in our parking lot a little, practicing the maneuvering, but I just did it because I thought we would overall be better off as a team if we were campaigning 2 trucks, and there wasn't girls being booked. So I thought that was a good niche to get us booked more.
For sure. And even in the time that I've been watching, it's really exploded. There was almost no, female representation at all early on. And now, I mean, there's a female on just about every tour, every Monster Jam tour, and all the independents, just about.
Yes.
Right, which is great. Right, I know my daughter loves it. My kids have started coming. I have a 7 and 10-year-old, and they've started coming. And my daughter's hooked on Sparkle Smash, and these female drivers, and it's awesome. And so yeah, thanks for paving the way for that. I know my daughter appreciates it. right?
Yes.
So as we start to think about, actually getting behind the wheel of these things, right? What was the learning curve like? It seems like there's, from if you want to like put the edges on the map, it's like, you have this Tom Metz who like can stand it on two wheels and just stay there for the rest of the show if he so chooses, it seems, right? All the way down to someone that, seemingly tips over accidentally, right off the bat. What's the learning? From the outside looking in, it seems like it must just be so much more difficult than somebody like Tom Metz makes it look like, right?
It is. I remember my first event that I did in Rapid City, South Dakota. I ended up winning freestyle, and it's not because I did great. It's just because it was a smaller event, and I love all the guys that were there, but none of our trucks was Monster Jam level at that show. Mine looked the coolest, and I was new, and I had spinners, and it was shiny, so I won.
Yeah.
And my big air that I got, and I needed to go pull tape and watch this because I knew I had it vertical. I knew I had that thing 30 feet in the air, and I knew Tom Mintz was going to be jealous when he saw what I just did on my first show out. And I go watch the video, and I was at about a 45-degree angle, and my back tires were maybe 1 foot off the ground. And I got absolutely no air at all, but it felt like I had just sent that thing to the moon. Mm-hmm. So that adjustment, or trying to ignore how it feels and focus more on how it looks, was a little bit tough. And it did take a while. And I remember the guy who told me, actually, he's a YouTuber now. His name is Casey Liddell. I used to drive monster trucks with him. And he told me, no matter how fast you think you need to go to hit a ramp, go twice as fast. And so I just started kind of doing that. And he reminded me that forward momentum is your friend when hitting the ramps. You never want to just fall out of the sky. So you just start hitting stuff harder and harder and harder. And after a while, the harder you hit it, the better it feels. So you kind of get better like that, and you get better from having to save it because you don't want to destroy the truck and have to fix it yourself. So you're desperately hanging on for dear life, trying to not destroy the truck, but have as much fun as you can. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but you learn a lot in that process. It was a very fun process. There was a lot, probably 50 crashes, rollovers, crash and burns. It was an absolute blast. It was a lot of work, tens of thousands of hours over the years, very long learning curve, but it was fun. It was very, very fun.
So talk to me about the logistics of driving it, right? And so it's got 2 gears, right? And it has rear steel on a toggle switch, right? So what does that feel like to get used to? It's very different than any other vehicle, I would imagine, right?
Yeah, it's some of the farm equipment has rear steer on it. The equipment that we use to load the cars and stuff, some of that has rear steer on it. It is a little different driving at first, but once you've used a rear steer, it's almost harder to drive a truck without it because it turns twice as sharp. And if you don't have that rear steer, it takes 40 acres just to make a U-turn. So a lot of times now, like especially in turning course racing, like at the Metrodome, for example, when I would take off from the starting line, first gear, I would load the throttle a little bit, hammer down, and pretty much as soon as my foot hits the floor, the tires make a couple rotations, I would grab second gear and just let go of the shifter and grab onto the rear steer. And that's my handle for the rest of the run. And when I'd go into the turn, I would hit my rear steer first. And any more steering I need, or if I oversteered with the rear steer, that's when I use the steering wheel. So the steering wheel is always my secondary steering. And
interesting.
Even to this day, the rear steer is my primary steering for everything.
And it's quite literally just like a thumb toggle, switch, right?
Yep. And about half of us do it one way and about half of us do it the other way. And they're all wrong. The other half is all wrong.
What are the two schools of thought?
My truck, when I click the switch to the right, my truck will turn right, or, the left to the left. And other people, they want, when they click it to the right, it steers the axle to the right, which actually would swing the back of the truck to the left. And I can't do that math in my head. I just need to know if I click one way, I go that way.
Yeah.
And I was teammates with a guy like that when I was driving the zombie truck. He was an Earthshaker. So anytime I would load his truck in the trailer or go move it for pit party, it always looked like it's my very first time driving a truck. And I had already at that point been driving for 15 years or whatever, but I'd get in there and it's all backwards to me.
Mm-hmm. So, Kaila, talk to me about that backflip in Tijuana, right? So at this point, how prevalent was what year would this be? And how prevalent was the backflip in Monster Jam or Monster Truck at that point? And then for you to land successfully the first one as a female, what was that like?
Well, so it would have been in 2011. Okay. And that was the year that Tom had landed a backflip and Ryan had then also landed one at World Finals. Mm-hmm. So it was just, on everyone's radar. And when I got the call from Mexico about booking a backflip, it wasn't actually for me. It was about a different guy I was friends with at the time. But he was busy it was Maine. So like totally opposite end of the country from Tijuana, just making that work. And I had thought about doing a backflip, but wasn't like trying to book one or anything. But I just thought like, I'll try it since we don't really got him available. And then I don't know, I knew about it like 2 months ahead of time, I want to say. So I had a lot of time to like think about it in my head. And really, I wish I would have just only known about it closer to it. So I watched Ryan's backflip and I had talked to him about like the takeoff and, landing and stuff. And really, I wasn't like too stressed out about it. I thought I had thought about it a lot, pictured it landing. And as we were, I think in San Diego, we were getting close down to the border. And Paul's just like, I don't even think you should be doing this. You got to take it a lot more seriously. It's dangerous. And I don't think you're ready for this. And really at the time I had only been driving like a year or so. I was also a rookie.
And it was my new truck at the time.
Oh, of course. That helps, I'm sure.
So, there was no going back though. When we got to Tijuana, like the whole town was plastered in backflip advertising. And, I just only pictured it landing. So to me, that was like the only way it could go, and it just had to land. And the event itself, I didn't actually end up getting to backflip until after midnight. It was all just going so long and everything. So I got out there and I didn't even back up and go, I just hit the container, stayed in it. And luckily I had just enough to get the rotation. I didn't even have like a very powerful motor at the time. I think it was a small one, but I also ended up, not too long before that backflip finding out that I had a bunch of broke shocks on the truck. We were up in the pits and it was just like, it's just got to work. So we went through with it. And when I landed it, it was like the whole stadium just completely erupted. And it was like one of the most energetic feelings. There's a few times in both of our driving that I just remember the whole place going nuts. And that was one of them. But yeah, that's like a memory that's just like stuck in my mind clear as day, as if it was yesterday.
And so at that point, you guys were doing backflips off of Connex boxes, right? At that point, they have switched to the trench box now, right?
We tried everything. That first one, I think the first two maybe were off the Connex boxes. And then when we were in Mexico City, they couldn't find one. So they got us a dumpster and we tried, I think we threw some dirt in it and welded some cross members, but they didn't hold. It just collapsed. That was actually a really crazy one. When she hit it, a little too much sauce, and she put the nose of the truck about 50 feet in the air, straight up and down, and it just fell straight down and absolutely destroyed the truck. But it was a very cool video. We've done it off of cars.
What do you think about the tire setup that they use like in the Arena Series more?
The 8-pack? Yeah, the 8-pack. I've never backflipped off of one of those. I've hit those a bunch of times, but when I was on the Arena Tour, those were not for backflips. They were set into the dirt a little bit more, and they were for getting the truck very, very vertical or past vertical. That's actually the ramp I probably have crashed the most on, because the truck would try to do a backflip, even though the driver's not trying to. I'm trying to pop a wheelie up onto the pod. but it's too vertical and it would shoot me backwards and I would turtle it all the time. And that always hurt pretty good because it's just a dead blow on the roll cage with no shocks or anything.
The seat is not suspended at all?
No.
It's hard mounted to the frame?
Yeah, it's solid mounted and it's aluminum. It's a very rigid seat. I did used to have a suspension seat. It was solid mounted, but it's a suspension seat. But that doesn't work well for monster trucks because you end up, like when you land, your body smashes down into the seat and then it snaps back up against the seat belts. And people were breaking their backs and collarbones, stuff like that. So we switched to these full containment seats now. That holds our head in place, our shoulders, our rib cage. You almost, when you get in them, you almost feel like you don't need seatbelts. You fit so tight in them.
Wow.
Plug the hooker harness seatbelts, Butler seats, best combination.
Yes, absolutely. I felt like I was cheating. Like when I went from my first truck to my regular seatbelts that I had, is regular 5-point harness and my suspension seat. And then I switched to a containment seat. We use Butler seats now and hooker harness seatbelts. I felt like I found a cheat code because no longer were we getting hurt in the trucks. Before we would judge our hits kind of on how much it hurts. And with that seat and seatbelt combo, nothing hurts anymore. So that's why these trucks are getting the air they're getting, the 30, 40, 50 feet in the air. And the chassis will bust apart. It'll blow shocks off of them, break wheels, break axles, and the drivers can get out and laugh about it while their crew has to go back and start working. Yeah. And it is 100% credit to those seats and seat belts.
Hey, gang, if you could do me a favor and just, give this thing a rating, maybe subscribe. YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, giving those a rating and subscribing to it makes a huge difference. If you follow it on social media, make sure to share the post, like it. It's a small thing for you to do, but it makes a huge difference in the progress of this show. So I really appreciate you. Thank you. This podcast is brought to you in part by Hikes Boots. You can tell a lot about a brand by the way they choose to advertise. And Hikes didn't ask me to do anything specific. What they did was they sent me 2 pairs of structural fire boots. They sent me their Fire Eagle Air and their Fire Eagle Extreme. One's a traditional pull-up boot and one is a lace-up boot. I was a little bit skeptical at first of the lace-up boot, but I've been wearing it, and you put them on, pull one little handle, it tightens kind of around your calf and around your foot. It's super comfortable to kind of specifically molded to your foot as you pull those strings. Super comfortable, super supportive. Feels like an athletic shoe, except for kind of more structured. And so I love them. If you want to find out more information, check it out at hikesusa.com. That's HAIXUSA.com, or check the show notes. Rigaku. Today's episode is brought to you by Rigaku Analytical Devices, who are the folks that have been perfecting the 1064 nanometer ramen longer than a lot of us have even been doing hazmat. And they just launched their 4th generation handheld analyzer, the Icon X. It's built specifically for the real world stuff hazmat teams encounter. We're talking about dirty powders, mixed materials, dyes, colors, all the things that make other instruments throw a tantrum. But the 1064 nanometer laser means reduced fluorescence. So you get fast, reliable chemical ID in under a minute instead of staring at a blank screen, wondering what went wrong. And this new platform isn't just an upgrade. It's a whole new toolbox. It supports new accessories, including standoff analysis, so you can get the answers without getting too close. If you want an analyzer that's been evolving right alongside the hazmat world, check out Rigaku's newest ramen at rigakuanalytical.com, or check the show notes. Back to the show. So the sport of Monster Jam has changed. The sport of monster truck racing, right, has changed drastically in the time I've watched it, right? When I first started watching, it was, Dennis Anderson and Tom Metz, and then, it was literally a redneck rally, which God love them. I love it so much. It was like Smash the Trailer, Demolition Derby, right? It's like, and now they've transitioned Monster Jam through Fed into a sport, right? Now it's driver athletes, and it's this thing and this thing. What has that transition felt like on the inside, right? It from like what used to be, blaring Metallica and fire, to now it's like all too often a big commercial for Hot Wheels, or maybe not Hot Wheels, but Spin Master.
Yeah.
Go
ahead.
I was just gonna say they're both cool, but we missed the original when this Metrodome floor was, as Paul calls it, a smoking, smoldering mess, and just that it's a different feel.
Right now, they can clean up a track between, like, they'll do a Saturday night event at a stadium, and then they'll bust one out for a Sunday afternoon, and they can go in there with a couple skid steers and some paint and straighten up the dirt in a few hours. And before, when they had the campers, RVs, all the cars, that really wasn't an option. It's more fun. Like, it is more fun hitting the cars and the campers because the trucks don't land right. Hitting the dirt ramps, you see how hard people can hit them now. And they can plan out their freestyles really well. They know if they hit this, this ramp pinned in second gear, they're going to land perfect to hit the next ramp. If you try that on an RV or a school bus or a van stack, a lot of times it just doesn't work out like that. And it's much less predictable. And it's more fun as a driver having to save the truck when it bounces weird and you're up on the sidewalls or whatever. And that just doesn't happen as much on perfectly formed dirt ramps that you can, hit with anything really.
Has the transition been, well received in terms of like the drivers, like in terms of like, back in the day, it felt like there was this sort of like, we recognize what we're doing. We're out there and we're smashing stuff. And, when Dennis Anderson is in the back, we're going to, when it's his time to do freestyle, we're going to pull out the camper and because we just want the show, we want the spectacle. It doesn't matter. Like, we're not competing for points or whatever. It's just a spectacle. And now it's become so, and don't get me wrong, there's a cool component of the stadium tour and competing for points, but it's a different thing entirely than it used to be. And has that generally on the inside been well received, or is there a little bit of like reluctance to the business?
It's gotten a lot of mixed reviews, mostly from the fans. As far as the drivers, I think a lot of the current drivers today are very happy with the way things are because this is the way it's always been for them. A lot of them are in their 20s. They weren't, a lot of the drivers today weren't driving when the tracks were cool, Yeah. But they're tricky. They have ramps specifically for standing the trucks up on the front tires or doing their little stunts, stuff like that. But I think the drivers are really happy with the way the tracks are now. I think the fans want more. I think the fans, they want the destruction. They want to smell the stuff burning at the end of the night. They want to see the smoke. They want to know that something went down there, and they can't just spray paint it and scrape it smooth in an hour and do it again.
So me and my dad, maybe you can clear this up. Me and my dad have had this theory for a long time that there was like it's not this way anymore, it would seem, but there was an era probably in like the early teen 2000s where like they leaned really heavily into like the kind of WWE, we're controlling the narrative thing. And like it would, every time it would be like, oh no, they broke their axle. Are they going to have time to come back out? And then like, it would be like 3, 2, out through the tunnel. And it was like, okay, we've seen this trope the last 6 years. Like how many times can Dennis Anderson not know if he's going to do freestyle? Right. Is that a real thing, or is that conspiracy theory?
It is a real thing, but they play up on that drama. Like it's happened to me at the Metrodome before. I broke, I think it was a front drive shaft in my truck, and I didn't have what I needed down on the floor. So even though it was 20 below zero outside, it was still quicker for me to just drive my truck outside, fix it next to my trailer quick, and make it back down for freestyle or racing, whatever it was I was trying to come out for. And when I came down, they stopped me at the tunnel and like, wait. And they played it up, and I could hear the crowd going crazy for me. And they had never done that before. I was just, me. I was just me. I wasn't Tom or Dennis. I never had a stadium cheer for me like that before. I was just happy to be there. So I didn't care. But it was really cool to be able to hear that. And a lot of it was just because Monster Jam played up the drama, even though it was real. My truck really was broken. And Dennis's truck and Tom's, when they're back there and got cameras in their face, their trucks are really broken and they really are thrashing to try to get them together. But they do play up on that drama a little bit. And sometimes, like I can think of one time specifically with Maximum Destruction where the driver got kind of annoyed with, or the crew guy got kind of annoyed with him. They had a camera right in his face and they're like, "Oh, can you tell us what's wrong with the truck? Are you going to make it back?" And he's like, "Oh, do you see that effing drive shaft laying on the ground?" He got scattered and they're trying to figure out what's wrong and he's yelling at them. So, I mean, but they want to get in there and get their shot and tell their story and create the drama for the crowd. The drivers don't get into it too much. You know, we're just trying to drive, or the crew guys, they're just thrashing, trying to work.
And the one cool thing that it's always been inside of Monster Jam is the all the teams seem to come together to fix the truck that's broken, right? When the chips are down, it's like, all right, take off the uniform. Now we got to fix this and get it back in. Is that a thing that is kind of compelled upon the teams by Monster Jam, or is that a thing that's just like natural to all these guys that are touring and friends?
No promoter would ever ask any team to go work on another team's truck. We all just do that. You know, we all are friends. We all want the show to go well. We all care about the show. Mm-hmm. We all care about the fans. So we just help each other out. We share parts. You know, anytime anybody needed a part out of our trailer, or anytime we needed a part out of theirs, which was pretty often, especially on a Monster Jam tour where the trucks are getting destroyed every weekend pretty much. And we just didn't have all those parts with us. We were pretty new, and everybody always opened up their trailer doors for us, or even Monster Jam. They would help you out, whatever they could do to keep the show going and keep the trucks running. But nobody ever asked anybody to do that.
Yeah. So talk to me about the actual logistics of, I don't understand how like these teams can afford to destroy is it because everything's manufactured and worked on in-house? It's like, how do you afford to go and wreck a truck on a nightly basis and like have this be a cost-effective business? It doesn't make any sense to me.
It's not a cost-effective business, I can promise you. And these trucks that are going out there and getting destroyed, a lot of them, about half of them at Monster Jam are owned by Monster Jam. Mm-hmm. So they have different budgets than the independent teams. But they also have different rules. And the independent teams, most of them are business owners of some sort outside of the monster truck. The monster truck is their way to blow off steam on the weekend, or it's their secondary business for most of them. For some of them, for us, for years, it was our full-time business. We traveled every week all year long. Certain like Gravedigger, for example, that one just sells more merch. That one likely has a different budget. Or with the independent teams, a lot of times there might be like a primary truck and then the moneymaker truck that you hope doesn't get destroyed. But the boss man's truck, he may go wad his up every weekend and not really care how much it costs. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it goes out the window too when you put the helmet on. You just kind of forget. You get in the heat of the moment, and it literally takes 1 second to just do the wrong thing and have a little too much fun, or get a little too wild, or hit something too crooked.
So when you're thinking about that exact thing, like sometimes you see someone feather the throttle into a ramp, or every once in a while you see someone literally pin it. But like, what quote unquote percentage of throttle are you giving into a ramp in order to like have an optimal outcome without just shooting yourself to the moon?
I mean, departing, like climbing the ramp and departing it, always wide open. Yeah. It's the approach, really. It's how fast you're approaching it, and then try to lift off the throttle a little bit right at the bottom of the ramp, just to let the suspension settle down. So when you take off, it doesn't just jump you completely vertical, or nose high in the air the whole way. So as you approach with pretty good speed, just let off the throttle and let the front sink, even just for a half a second. Just let the shocks drop a little bit and then hammer down. That's how I do it. That's how the truck jumps, I think, the most level or the safest.
Do you have control of its angle in the air via braking and gas? Is that
I mean, once they definitely have air brakes on them. If you get in the air and hit the brakes, the trucks will definitely drop right out of the sky very quickly. So you see a lot of guys when they hit a ramp, maybe a little too hard and the truck is jumping kind of vertical, you'll see them throw sparks off the brake rotors, and they'll just tap the brakes to set the truck a little more level. So when they land, it's not landing just on the back wheels, and they can see when they're going to land. Otherwise, you don't even know when you're going to land.
What components are being rebuilt on a nightly basis? Are you rebuilding the whole brake system and stuff like that?
The brakes, as much as you see those things dripping, like dripping flames off of them, burning, throwing sparks, they really don't get tore up that bad. I mean, we've gone before like 2 years without even changing the brake pads.
Oh my gosh.
They'll last a while. The components that we mess with the most, I rebuild a lot of shocks. Axles,
something different.
Yeah,
really.
it's different stuff. I mean, a few rear ends, maybe every couple months we'll put a rear end in, or
See, the planetary seem to go.
The planetary, we don't have a lot of bad luck with planetaries. They used to. 20 years ago, planetaries used to lock up and break all the time. But now there's a lot of the other teams, they got kind of sick of dealing with that. So they've started making their own parts for the planetaries.
Oh, okay.
So there's actually quite a few of them. There's like a guy who builds super hard spindles, so the wheels quit breaking off. There's a guy who's building the hubs, so they quit breaking. There's a guy who's building steering knuckles, another guy who's building harder axle shafts and harder U-joints. So they don't break that often anymore. Every now and then we'll break one, but in the last 2 years, I don't know. I don't even know if we've broke one, actually.
Wow. So when you get into that mindset of that freestyle run you were kind of describing, it's like, how much of that is planned versus how much of that is kind of going with the flow? Are you thinking, oh, I'm going to try to hit all 4 corners and then I'm going to try to do a slap wheelie and then I'm going to end with a backflip or whatever? Or is it like, wherever I end up landing, I'm going to figure it out as I go?
That's how it happens. Wherever I end up landing, I'll just figure out where to go. But I do try to plan at least my first few hits and like maybe my last hit. And then just whatever happens in between. Other people try to plan their whole run. Some people, they're just planning their first bonsai hit and God's good humor after that, whatever happens.
Yeah. So all this comes to, talk to me about this new endeavor, right? This monster truck driving school. It's ironic the way we kind of ran into each other or touched base at first. When I saw I was on Reddit and I saw that you had made a post and I went, wait, this guy, I think he's a monster truck driver. And then all of a sudden you say, actually, we're opening a monster truck driving school. It's like, a monster truck driving school? I've been looking for a monster truck driving school for the last decade, right? And it seems like nobody's been doing it. So what inspired it? And, what's the deal with it? Tell me some information about it.
Well, I was talking to a friend of ours that we work with that owns Monster X Tour and just was kind of like, you got any fun ideas for the track next year? And he goes, actually, there's something I've been thinking about for a while. And he had said the monster truck driving school. And I had thought about doing that here. A friend of ours, Zane, had done that at his house or at his shop a couple of years ago during COVID for a short little stint and then went back out on tour. But it's just one of those things that it's like, one of the most asked questions. What's it like to drive a monster truck? Like, not every fan asks that, but tons of them do. And it's a good way to answer. Just be like, well, it's very hard to describe, but you can come find out yourself. We have a driving school and, for what I call the super fans, kind of like Paul and I starting out, everyone wants to not necessarily be a monster truck driver because that is a very grueling, dedicated thing, but we want to go drive it once to see. So when he had mentioned that, I just was like, I love that idea. Let's run with it. And it's nerve-wracking coming up. There's a lot of challenges we got to get worked out before opening in April, but I'm super excited, and I think the people that really love monster trucks will, have a blast driving one. Me and Paul have got to, I wouldn't say train people, but we've got to work with a couple people driving for their very first time. And like he was saying about his driving in Rapid City for the first show, it just feels so much like crazier air or faster or whatever than it really is watching for the first time. So, like I said, it's an adrenaline rush that's very hard to describe with words. So I'm glad to just let people try it themselves.
For sure. So Horsepower Park, is this track something that you guys own or you're in partnership with, or?
We own Horsepower Park, and we're in partnership for the Monster Truck Driving School. But yeah, we own the track and the park.
So you're hosting racing events. I think you call it the fastest half mile of dirt in North Carolina. Is that right?
Yeah, it's the fastest. It's the longest and fastest dirt track in North Carolina. And we just had our season opener this past weekend.
So what kind of racing are you offering there?
We have there was like Young Guns, front wheel drives, Thunder Bombers, Renegade Sportsman. We have the Crown Vic racing going on here. Some late models. We have super late models coming in May and sprint cars.
Wow. Super fun. Well, I'm going to let you guys go. I don't want to keep you all day, even though I could. I am going to put it on the bucket list to get down there and drive a monster truck here at some point, hopefully. Come and see you guys in person. But thank you for taking the time to talk to me and answer all my nerdy monster truck questions. Kaila, Paul, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yep.
Ooh.